Halliwax here, back in the basement. I get this question a lot. What did you ever do with Roman Prop Steel V2? Stick around and I'm going to show you.
Escape is not his plan. I must face him alone.
So the beginning of this video is going to sound kind of preachy, but I have to explain the whole story behind what I did to this Steel V2. If you remember, over a year ago now, or even maybe more, Roman made the Steel V2. I was delivered mine a little bit early to give a comparison and review on, which I did. So we got, holy cow. Wow. This thing is heavy. What you've never seen before is a video that I made of me weathering and doing the physical damage to the Steel V2. I never released it because I was so unhappy with how it came out, I decided not to finish it. So some of you may or may not know that I live on a peninsula. The water is right down the street from me, a 30-second walk, and I'm on the beach. So when Roman announced his V2s were going to be out of steel, I knew I was going to have a problem. And sure enough, if you go back and watch my unboxing video, when I open it up, the V2 is already rusty. Alright, so first thing I've noticed, she's rusty. Which I removed right then and there with some steel wool. It only took a minute. Okay, so about 5 minutes has gone by with buffing with some quadruple zero steel wool, and you can see how I removed the rust. Like I said, everything in my neighborhood is rusted. The cars, any kind of steel outside rusts overnight. The aluminum, there's so much salt in the air, any kind of aluminum oxidizes. So I knew I was going to have a problem with weathering the Steel V2. So right away, after seeing how quick it rusted in the packaging on its way over here, I said, I'm just going to give this a New Hope paint job, so the whole thing's covered in paint, I don't have to worry about it rusting. But I figured I was going to dent the emitter because, or at least dent it in one spot, because at the end of the duel with Vader, before Obi-Wan brings the saber to his face, you can clearly see a massive dent in the emitter. So I figured I'll do the New Hope paint theme and add that one dent. This footage you've never seen before, but I go out to the shed and I throw massive amounts of heat on this thing to start denting the emitter. And I did do the one dent. I wasn't happy with it, so now I said, well, it's already dented. I might as well do the other 4. Terrible. Now, what the hell was that? Everything's falling. Wow. Holy jeez. Oh, we're gonna need a bigger boat. Christ. I'm not happy with it. So now I'm gonna go in here with sandpaper and try and smooth these dents out as best I can. But I really encourage you not to dent your steel emitter. The steel is just too difficult to shape. From day one, well, after that experience, I've always preached to everybody, don't dent your steel emitters. Other members online have dented them, and no disrespect to you at all, but it just doesn't look right. The steel is not going to move like the aluminum. And again, don't take this as me being negative or rude. It's a different beast in general. You're not going to get it to look the same. I don't care how much heat you throw at it. The steel is not going to move the same as aluminum. It's not going to ripple like the aluminum can ripple. It just doesn't work. So I was totally disgusted with the emitter. I painted it black, I weathered it up, and I sold it for $100. A member reached out and said, I'll buy it for $100. Well, he needed a week to come up with the money. Never came up with the money. It sat up here on the shelf. Since. It's been up there since. I was so disgusted with the emitter, I asked Roman, I said, Roman, is there any extra, do you have any extra emitters? So he actually had put in an extra emitter for me. The next time he does a run, I'll have a steel emitter for him. So with that story said, keep that in mind. With that story said, a few months ago, a very respected member reached out to me with some pictures that have not been seen by the public yet. And he said, I need some advice. Is this the V2 or the V3? And we got Alec Guinness holding it like this. And I said, that's neither. That's the Death Saber. So what is the Death Saber? We only have one photo of it, and actually we don't even have a photo of it. It's a screen capture from some behind-the-scenes footage of them propping up the mannequin with Obi-Wan's cloak on it that Vader cuts in half. It's a very, very short second clip that we see of the saber in the mannequin's hand. Well, I don't even think it's a mannequin. It's just propped up there. Anyway, the emitter is completely raw. There's no paint on it. And the emitter plate is machined almost all the way down. It's very, very, very short. It's a very short lip on it. Or should I say it's a very small lip on it. So you can spot it right away because the emitter is so tiny looking, especially with the nipple on top. The nipple is roughly 20 millimeters. So with that nipple on top of the emitter, the small emitter, it stands out right away. So now with the new reference photos, I said, I need this saber. I need it bad. I went over to the shelf, grabbed Roman's Steel V2, and ran up to the shed. And I came up with this. So this is Roman's Steel V2, right? It's heavy as hell. So with the new reference, this is as close as I can get to the Death Saber, okay? Let's start at the top, work our way down. So Roman's emitter, right? It has the regular V2 emitter, the wide emitter. Now, I dented it and I wasn't happy with it, so like I said previously, I machined the lip down to the accurate size of the Death Sabers. It's very, very, very short lip here. The nipple, I took some liberties with because, the blade's attached on it in all the photos, so you don't really know. But I decided to stick this out there like that to give it my own little signature, Halliwax Death Saber feel. But as you can see, I removed the dents and weathered the paint on here, like so. And then the first lip, I have some paint on it left behind. And then realistically, this part of the Death Saber is all raw aluminum. Why they forgot to paint it, I don't know, but I imagine just like the rest of the prop, this stuff came off when Guinness was dealing with it. One thing I left out was, in one of the photos, you can see wires coming out of the pommel and going up Guinness's sleeve. So that tells me this sucker spun. So who knows what happened, if this thing was floating or came undone and the emitter was spinning and he held it and burned the paint off. We don't know, but there's no paint on the emitter at the time of the death scene. At the time of the death scene, it's clear as day that this part of the emitter is naked. Another funny thing about the Death Saber is the best way I can describe it is the emitter is a caramel color. It's very caramel looking color to it, very light goldish brown color. So I painted the wind vane up like that. The grenade section is of course all black like the rest of the stunts, the V2 and the V3, and the booster as well. One thing another liberty I added was the bubble strip. In the scene there isn't a bubble strip in there. It must have fallen out like the rest of the props. And the scene that I see the wires going up the sleeve, Guinness's hands covering it, so I don't know if the bubble strips are there, but I imagine when the prop team made it, they had the bubble strip in there at one time. I imagine so. But, so I keep it in there just for cosmetics. But again, realistically, when he goes and cuts them in half, the bubble strip's not in the clamp. So the transistors, resistors, whatever you want to call them, on the Death Saber are actually taller. It looks as though this is a totally different kind of transistor, resistor, capacitor, whatever you want to call it, than what we see on the Kenobi Hero. and the Kenobi V2. It looks totally different. So I machined this spacer underneath as close as I could to the Roman props transistor to simulate the can being taller. And I don't have reference of this one, so I figured I'd use a spacer like so to kind of give it almost the same height. This one's a little bit higher, but again, this was another liberty I took because you can't see the bottom resistor in the mannequin. You only see the top. So because this is a Roman steel V2, you can also purchase a Rudy's Crystal Chamber. I ended up weathering this chamber. This is his second generation chamber, the ones that he's doing right now. Inside here is the 3D printed upgrade parts from Shapeways. I have I guess it would be called like the octopus looking thing, and the little brass cap in there that holds the crystal, and the radiator fins. The crystal inside is actually Rudy's crystal, synthetic crystal that I modify to make it look more real, beat up and stuff. I really like the crystal chamber in this. Some of these, is it this one? Some of these greeblies I've punched out and gotten them to move, so you can put them in any kind of location you want. But the Death Saber is a really cool saber because we don't know much about it, and what's even more important is we don't know where it is. This most likely walked off the set sometime. We've never seen it. There is that one scene in the hangar at Hoth, the tool saber, which the saber is handed to somebody, and it's supposed to simulate them handing them a tool or snow speeder part or whatever. You basically just see this, and you can clearly see bubbles in the bubble strip. So the tool, we call that the tool Hoth saber. If I don't think that's the Death Saber because it's got the bubble strip in it, but who knows? Who actually knows what that Hoth saber is? But I sure the hell would love to know where the Death Saber is today. I really wish it would pop up. Oh, that's another thing. Alright, so FXing. There isn't a Goth chassis out for this yet, but with my experimenting with Rudy's V3, you can get Roman's MK1 chassis, the Goth chassis for the MK1, to fit in both of these. And you just have to, I put the part in my lathe and machined, I think it was 2.5 millimeters in one section to get it to come up just a little bit more. And I mean, the battery just almost touches the speaker, but there's enough room. So you can get the MK1 chassis to work in this thing. So I'm almost getting ready to solder up the stuff for the V3, and once I get that working, this is next, and then I got another one on the way, another cool FX job on the way. But it is happening. FX is coming. I left the hole for the cone knob or power switch empty. One, it's going to give me more sound to resonate out of, and two, I don't know what's there. I don't know if there's a toggle switch there. With new photos that I've seen, I'm now convinced the V3 actually spun and had a motor, and I know the V3 didn't have a power switch on the outside of it, so they must have had something on the wire coming out of the pommel. So maybe there wasn't a hole there on the Death Saber. I don't know yet until further evidence. But so I've left it the way it is. If it really bothered me, I could put a set screw in there, but I've left that there just to resonate more sound. Same thing with the mystery chunk hole, the power wire hole. I left that open just to get the sound out of it. Hell, I might even throw a blinking LED in there, just to, inside the chassis, so you would see, blinking inside. Vice versa here too. Might throw an LED light inside there somewhere to blink, give it something different. But I just wanted to showcase my my Death Saber. Jay made a wicked little intro. Jay's been my secret squirrel on this project because the Death Saber is so mysterious, you know. So I told Jay, I said, hey Jay, you think you can make me up a cool intro for the Death Saber? He's like, give me a week. And he came up with that intro. So we gotta give a shout out to Jay for his wicked little intro. And I don't take on Roman prop commissions because I'm too afraid of it rusting on the client. I can't guarantee it not rusting, but I've done some treatments to the emitter here and some sealers, and so far so good, it hasn't rusted. But I don't know if I'm ready to take on the chance of doing steel V2 commissions just because of that whole situation. I don't want to be held responsible if the client gets their V2 and they're rusted. You can still get a steel V2 from Roman's website, romanprops.com. He's got a couple options. You can get the blank steel version, which was the one that I got. Then you can get his weathered version, which is, I don't know what they do to it. They might have put some gun blue on it and weathered it up so it's like a smoky color. And then he's actually got his own stencil version. But if you want a more accurate paint chip finish, you can use Trooper Trent's stencil kit. And I've gone through all the measurements on this thing, and the best stencil to use from Trooper Trent is his Anakin Starkiller stencil set, which fits this flawlessly. Works great. So that's another option. But these are in stock at Roman's Props if you want one. So that's my Death Saber. I'm a big fan of the Death Saber. I'm glad I found a purpose for this thing because it was just sitting on the shelf collecting dust. And I'm glad the guy backed out on buying this because I was selling it for $100. Everything, the bubble strip, everything. When it was in V2 mode, the cone knob, mystery chunk. I even threw in a vintage mystery chunk for $100. I was so upset that just get rid of it. And he backed out. So I'm glad because now I have my Death Saber with a wicked crystal chamber in it. But that pretty much wraps it up. I just wanted to show this off to everybody, give you all a little history lesson behind the Death Saber and where you can find it. Before I sign off, I've noticed a really big influx in my subscriber count in the last week, which is amazing. I want to thank everybody for subscribing. It means a lot to me. It really does. I wasn't lying about the Saber giveaway, and it's going to happen. It's on the way. UPS has shipped it, and I think I'm going to do that within 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks. I say that because I'm finishing up some commissions, and then I can dedicate that time to sitting down on the computer and organizing everybody's entry and putting that into the software to generate the winner. So the giveaway is going to happen, and make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post that video with the instructions. All right? Again, I just want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you learned something today, and be on the lookout for the next video. This is Halliwax, out.